my screen?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Mariam Bagari, and I'm one of the co-directors of events for CREW Vancouver. Just before we start, I just want to cover a few housekeeping items. If you haven't already, please make sure you're on mute. There will be opportunities to ask questions later throughout the session, and you can go off mute at that time, but just in the meantime, to help reduce the background noise, it'd be super helpful. You can also ask questions through the chat function at the bottom of your screen, and someone from CREW Vancouver will field the questions, and we may interrupt or wait at the end to ask Lisa the questions that you have. And finally, the session is being recorded, and it'll be posted on our CREW Vancouver YouTube page, which is helpful if you missed anything today. So we're super excited to launch this weekly wellness series throughout the month of May. We're kicking off today with this event with Lisa. Each event will be partnered with a local small business, and they will be Thursdays at noon through to the end of the month. So we hope to see you back each week. Now, before we get into it, I just want to take a moment to thank our members and our sponsors. Thanks to your support, we can continue our mission to advance women in real estate industry, and without you, our programming and events just wouldn't be possible. We look forward to continue providing you value during this time as we find new and creative ways to keep our community engaged. So thank you. And finally, I'd like to introduce our guest today, Lisa Kondi. Lisa is a certified fitness instructor and plant-based chef who's currently studying to become a registered holistic nutritionist. She's passionate about teaching people how to properly fuel their bodies, and she's been keeping very busy in this pursuit. She started one of Vancouver's first healthy meal delivery businesses. She wrote an online nutrition ebook, and she recently started a YouTube channel in hopes of reaching a broader audience. What we really like about Lisa is that she doesn't focus on weight loss or fad diets. Her goal is to help people eat to have more energy and feel good in their own skin. So welcome, Lisa. I will hand it over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so happy to be here with you guys today. So as you can see probably on the screen now, I'm going to go through a real quick introduction of me and my background, some supplements and superfoods to not only help you during COVID to stay healthy, but also some things that you can take with you when we move through this time in quarantine. Some foods that I love to have on hand to throw together a meal in, say, 5, 10, 15 minutes. So some good snack ideas and some quick meal ideas. And then we'll get into pretty much just the 2 recipes. So throughout it, I do want it to be interactive. If you guys have a question, if you're unsure about what I'm talking about, feel free to type in the chat box, and then someone from the CREW Vancouver will get back to you, and then they can either let me know and I can go through something real quick, or we can just save everything to the end when I'm kind of cooking and we can do more questions there. So it's totally up to you guys. Feel free if you really want to jump in. Otherwise, we'll just go through and then we'll chat at the end with some questions. Okay, perfect. So we're going to start with the introduction. Perfect. Everyone can see me okay and hear me? Awesome. Okay, so I am Lisa Kondi. I am originally from Victoria, BC on Vancouver Island. I moved here about 6 years ago. So about 6 years ago is when I was supposed to be finishing my degree in political science and a minor in social justice. It just kind of led me there with the classes I was supposed to take for my requirements. I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing in my life. I think we all kind of go through that time. And I always knew that nutrition was my passion and health and fitness. And so it was only natural that it kind of led me here. But I just woke up one day, it was 6 months before I was supposed to graduate. And I told myself I just couldn't be in the classroom any longer. And I just knew my passion was not there. Maybe it was timing, I'm not sure, but another really good opportunity also came up at the time, and a friend who is living in Vancouver suggested that we open up a meal delivery business because there wasn't much option in Vancouver at the time, which is crazy to think because now I can't even count how many meal delivery businesses there are. There's probably up to 50, maybe more. At the time, there was about 2. So I wanted to jump on it. I was like, this is the perfect time. I have someone who wants to do it with me. We both have the passion. We went to hire a holistic nutritionist at the time, and then my friend backed out. And so it was just me and the holistic nutritionist, and I decided to go through with it. I just felt like it was the right thing for me at the time, and I didn't have much of a plan. I just went with my gut, and created all these recipes with this holistic nutritionist over about 6 months. We created a basic business plan and we just went with it. And one of the best of the worst situations happened and we became so busy. It was mainly me because she was part-time, making up to 300 meals a night. And it was no sleep. It was crazy, overworked, stress times as any entrepreneur goes through in their first business. And it was stuff that you, of course, can't plan for. It just happens. You just roll with it. It was great while it lasted. I supplied Body Energy Club. I supplied a couple gyms, a few cafes, personal orders to people's houses, and then big events. So as you can imagine, it was very stressful to the point that my passion, I just lost it at that time. I got too in over my head. So 2 years later, I decided to call it quits just simply because I lost the passion being in the kitchen, making the exact same meals for upwards of 15 to 20 hours a day. And I lost the human connection with food. And that's what I really realized that I love is working one-on-one with people and allowing them to, figure out what feels really good in their body. And it's really hard to do when you're just so busy with your head down cooking and you don't have that time to connect with others. So that's why I decided to close a business. I didn't sell it because I knew I wanted to do something else with Kondi Kitchen. I just didn't know what. So at that time, I just needed a break from cooking and I moved. It was a natural progression for me to move into the gym. My sister owned, at that time, it was one boutique studio. It's called Kondi Fitness. It's our last name. So it was kind of natural that I started working with her and we became partners. And now we have 2 studios. Unfortunately, they're closed at the moment right now. We hope to open them eventually soon when we're allowed to. So I became a master trainer there and we do all body weight. It's a really great studio and I'm so proud to be working there and become the master trainer there. And from there, I just had a lot of people come up to me and they were at the gym 5, 6, even 7 days a week, not knowing why they weren't seeing the results that they should be seeing. And it all comes down to food, in my opinion. And it's obviously they work so well hand in hand. And that's when I really realized that my passion still lies in the kitchen and I need to figure out a way to kind of make these two work together. So that's when I kind of just tried things out and I wrote an ebook. So I have an ebook of 3 weeks of kind of helping people stay on track of eating with recipes and whatnot and fitness. And then, I still felt like I needed something else. So that's why I started taking my registered holistic nutritionist certification. So I'm currently doing that online. I'm about halfway through. Because I have more time with COVID right now, I'm hoping to get through it pretty quick at this point so that I can work more hands-on one-on-one with people to meet their health goals. Besides that, I started a YouTube channel to reach a larger audience as well. And all I want is my goal is to help people be a little bit more intentional about what they're eating. I think this is such a fitting time to talk about this kind of thing as you can see, this whole thing started from, one thing that's, a certain group of people or whoever, or was eating, something that maybe shouldn't be eaten or, wasn't thinking thoughtfully about how this could affect the world, the environment, other people. So it really comes back to, taking that time for ourselves. Most of us have more time in our lives right now to really educate ourselves. And I think that's what it comes down to, is just informing ourselves. We have so much at our fingertips right now. You can Google anything. And, back in the day for me, when I was growing up, that was around like 15 to even 20 years ago, there wasn't so much out there. And, I grew up eating, my background's Hungarian. So we ate white bread, butter, processed meats all the time. It was just eat, 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 which, those things are bad in moderation, but to have all the time, it's thinking more, about how it gets to your plate, who it's affecting, how it affects your body, and how we're also taking in the food. Are we stressed? Are we scarfing it down? And like I was saying with the time, it's so fitting to talk about it right now, as I'm sure a lot of you guys actually have heard about a lot of the meat companies shutting down because a lot of the major viruses do actually come from meat industries and the dairy industry. So that's kind of what I want to touch on today. So that's a little bit more about my background. So I'm just going to jump into now kind of my style of eating. I am mainly plant-based. I'm about 95% plant-based. I don't really like to put a label on it just because I think labels can kind of create a weird relationship with food. I think when you put any kind of limitations on anything, that's when we kind of not only restrict ourselves, but feel that pressure naturally from society or others. So I mainly get my nutrients from plants. I eat a little bit of wild fish here and there. That's just a personal choice for me. I like to go for my sushi and whatnot. I just make sure it's from a good source. So basically the 3 reasons why for me it comes down to eating more plant-based is for health reasons. As soon as we start naturally cutting down meat, we cut out the risk of getting things like chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes. We cut out a lot of risk of getting different types of cancers, heart disease. An interesting thing is cholesterol only actually lives in animals. So if you go completely vegan, you're actually reducing your risk of getting cholesterol by 100%, which is actually quite amazing to think about. You reduce the oxidative stress that can really affect your cells and your immune system. So oxidative stress means things from like pollution to hormones in the food that we eat, or stress, lack of sleep. There's so many factors in it. So naturally, when you're eating more meat, you're consuming more hormones and illnesses that can really lead to detrimental, like I said, chronic illnesses throughout your lifetime. Eating less meat is also correlated to living a healthier, happier lifestyle, and less chance of obesity and lowering blood pressure as well was another one. So I'm just kind of looking at my notes here because I do want to make sure I don't get these facts wrong. A few myths that I quickly wanted to debunk as well with plant-based eating is, a lot of myths about eating, things like soy and tofus and food products like that naturally we think to have more estrogen, and a lot of people think have more hormones than, say, meats. Soy has estrogen in it, but it's actually around 1,000 times weaker than the estrogen that we actually have in our bodies. So it doesn't affect us in the same kind of way. That estrogen that is in hormones that is actually injected into conventional meat is very similar to the estrogen that we produce in our bodies. So the meat and dairy industry is actually much more detrimental than eating things like soy. The one thing that I would just suggest when you think about soy, you just have to look into where you're getting your products. I mean, the soy that is eaten for human consumption, if you look at most soy products, you look on the label, most of it's organic. I mean, you do have to find what says certified organic because there's a lot that's just organic, which can be kind of a gray area. So you do have to just put a little bit of time to figure out where your sources come from. But the soy that is actually fed to animals and livestock and cattle, that's the GMO. So when we eat that meat, we're actually, getting those much more GMO than we would if you're eating soy. So health reasons is number 1 of why I've kind of turned more plant-based. Number 2 is not supporting the meat and dairy industry. I mean, so many of us love animals. I mean, most of us can say, probably a lot of you guys have dogs or cats. And I think a lot of us have seen how, it's shown that pigs and cattle and lamb have a lot of similar emotions to humans or to dogs and cats. And so that's where it really hits hard for me is, seeing that correlation between the animals and seeing how awful the slaughterhouses can be. And I think for a long time, I think a lot of people, I know my mom always says this, is, out of sight, out of mind. And that was me for a really long time. And I think now is this time that I was always too busy to look into it. And I didn't want to know. And now that we all have this time, it's like, it's hard to look into and to wrap your head around that these kind of things do go on, but that's what we're taking in. And I truly believe that, it's like that classic saying, you are what you eat. It's cheesy, but it's exactly true. I think that we are the most stressed society because we are eating the most hormones that we've ever eaten because we don't know what is being put into our food. We don't know where it's coming from. And so I think that's just a really important thing to look into. And then the last one is for environmental. A couple of these stats, again, I'm not going to go through a ton, but I do want to read you the ones that really hit hard with me. 70% of grain grown in the US today is fed to livestock. So that's enough to feed 800 million people. And going vegan could save up to 725,000 gallons of water. It's a really big number, so it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. So I did the math to put this into perspective. This is on average that humans have an average of about an 8-minute shower, whether daily or whatnot. So this uses about 17 gallons. So 725,000 gallons of water per year, whereas one shower is about 17 gallons. So that's quite a bit of a difference. 1 pound of beef requires about 2,500 gallons of water. So that's about 50 extra showers. Whereas 1 pound of soy requires only 250 gallons of water. So that's about 14 showers. So the difference is just huge. And then wheat only 25 gallons. And it's crazy to think that, in the next 10 years, we may have done so much damage to our world that we might not be able to reverse it. And a large portion of that has to do with the food industry. And then one more thing I want to touch on of a stat is if we were to eat 10% less meat-based meals per week, we could feed, what is the number? 60 million hungry people per year, which is crazy. 2 meals per week. It's nothing, meatless Monday and say, a Friday. So 2 meals, it's 10% of what you eat. Another just thing that I always love and I only just recently thought about is cross-contamination. It's really nice when you eat more plant-based not to have to worry about running home from the grocery store because you have to put your meat in the fridge. You don't have to worry about really washing your hands when you are switching from meat to vegetables. You don't have to have 2 different kinds of cutting boards. So it's just nice to think about those little things. It's all about small, consistent changes. I'm not trying to push you to say, everyone needs to go vegan and change everything you're doing right now. I mean, when I look back on my journey, it was a long time that it just kind of slowly started cutting it out. And my energy started going up. I started feeling a lot better. My skin was more clear. So it's just little changes like that. Like I said, it's all about knowledge. Knowledge is really power. And that's what I hope to communicate to you guys today. So that is kind of all I wanted to touch on that. If anyone has any questions, again, just feel free to type in. I don't think anything's popped up on here. So just let me know if you have anything. Otherwise, you can hold it to the end. So this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about is vitamins and supplements. Not only during this COVID time do we need to focus on being healthy, but I mean, like I said, COVID is a time where we can step back and really simplify things and look at what's important in life and staying healthy and happy. So if I could choose, I'm going to start with vitamins. So just think of vitamins as a way to live a base healthy life. Supplements, I kind of think of it more as like, they supplement your life to kind of take you to the next level. If you're dealing with stress, they help you with that. But these vitamins just help you maintain like a healthy, balanced, bodily functions, really. So if I had to choose one thing that I would suggest to you, whether it's daily life or it's through this COVID, both, I hope that you would take this with you throughout when this kind of quarantine gets lifted, is this lipospheric. I'm going to hold it up like this. It's a vitamin C. So this is a form of vitamin C that I actually have been taking for about 3 years now. I take it every morning. You can actually get this from Glory Juice Bar in Vancouver, but I usually just order online. You get it through Amazon or the website. This is a really highly absorbable form of vitamin C. So vitamin C, those little energy C packs that you see all over in grocery stores, that's a powder form. So that actually, if you really look into it, I mean, they're not that expensive. Not saying that more expensive things are better for you, but if you really look into it, most of it, we pee it out. So if it's kind of on the cheaper side, you got to really look into where you're getting your vitamins. I mean, it's important to get, organic when you can, or you got to find out how this is produced. So this is a really good brand. I have that every morning. It's so great for immunity. It helps with the common cold. It helps with collagen in your skin. cell production. When we get viruses, what is it called? It's called lipospheric vitamin C. So I'm just going to hold it up there. To be honest, the website got sold out really fast just recently because obviously what's going on. I think that they just mentioned they got it back in again. But you can check out Glory Juice. I know they have it unless they're sold out. What was I mentioning? Yeah, with the common cold, I mean, this is such a great way to daily have this in your life. If you feel like you're getting sick, even just with allergy season too, like the other day, I just woke up feeling stuffed up and felt a little bit run down. I took one in the morning, one in the afternoon, had a great sleep, and I felt so much better. So I always take one of these in the morning on an empty stomach. I wait 15 minutes before having anything. And I just usually kind of drink it with a warm lemon water. So that is my like go-to number one if I have to suggest anything. B vitamins, these are good for anyone, whether you are more plant-based or not. So I just get like a complex vitamin B. Same thing with, you just have to be careful where you get it from, what the source is. Often when you get something, say like a multivitamin too, often it's going to be really small amounts of each vitamin in that actual vitamin. So really in the end, are you doing much for your body because you're not actually getting much of each thing that's in that vitamin? So that's what you really have to look for. These are really high amounts of each of the B vitamins, B1 up to B12. So that's important to look into. It's a little bit more important to get B vitamins if you are eating more plant-based, because we naturally get more B vitamins from animal based foods such as organ meats and chicken and whatnot. So that's one thing that I focus on. And then my B12, just because, again, like I said, B12 is one thing, I'll hold it up too, that you actually can really only get from animals. I mean, you can get it from nutritional yeast, which is like a cheesy alternative if you've heard of it. But same thing, our bodies often don't absorb a lot of it. So if you are eating more plant-based, B12 is really important to get into your diet. It has a lot to do with energy. Same thing, cell production, and a lot of mood. It also helps fight anemia, which can help with red blood cell production. So that's a lot of preventing fatigue. So those are like some top ones. Moving to ones, those I would have every day. Those are a go-to. Ones that I would have just in my, actually one more, magnesium. This is what I take at night. This is really helpful for bodily functions such as, nerve functions such as, especially if you're active. We basically put our bodies through stress when we work out. So this is a really good way to calm your nerves, your muscles. It also helps relaxing your mind, your muscles, muscle recovery. It's really good for PMS symptoms as well. Magnesium we produce in our body, but we often don't produce enough, or because of, say, toxins in the environment, what we're eating, we don't absorb enough. So that's another really good one. I take that at night, about an hour before bed. It doesn't make you like pass out, but it just kind of helps you calm down, I would say. Some others that I would take, I'd say not every day, but here and there throughout the week. Zinc. This is a good one, especially zinc citrate. Do you see that? So this chelate, I think is how you say it at the bottom. That means that it's actually compounded with a couple other ingredients. It's just basically it's combined with, I can't even pronounce it, to be honest. It's more of like a medical term. When it's chelated is what I want to say how it's pronounced, chelated. It means that it can absorb better into your body because it has something else to absorb with. Usually, to be honest, it's some kind of like a healthy fat. That is really good for protecting your immunity, sort of similar to vitamin C. It's like immune booster when you're getting like a common cold. Zinc is what you want to make sure that you're getting. I mean, you can get zinc from B vitamins, dark leafy greens, that kind of thing, but we often don't absorb a lot of it. So that's another really good one to get. I would say those are my like top vitamins. Superfoods I'm going to go into next. So I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss anything. Superfoods, I would say next. Okay, so cordyceps. This is one I'm going to show right here. Cordyceps, these are really good if you like to work out, whether you like to run long distances, I'm sure a lot of us are running more outside, it helps you with energy production. So basically brings more oxygen to your blood. So the best thing, I like to almost call it like nature's pre-workout. Is when you take it, you're not gonna like get all jittery. It's not like a pre-workout. It's not like a coffee, and you're not gonna have a crash. This is the beauty about a cordyceps. So cordyceps is a type of adaptogen. Adaptogen, there's an adaptogen for almost everything. So it's either comes from an herb or a plant. You can get it in a pill form, a tincture, so like droplets, or you can take it in powder form. There's an adaptogen for stress. There's an adaptogen for sleep. There's an adaptogen for energy, for brain fog. I like to take cordyceps for energy. Like I said, it's all natural. I usually just take one if you are feeling really, really tired, say if you had a really bad sleep. It all depends, of course, on everyone. If you want to try 2 of them, I would just try one to start. It's a great way to almost wean off coffee as well. So cordyceps, definitely I would add in if you feel like you are, feeling a little bit even emotionally tired. We're all going through a really stressful time in our lives right now. So that's a really good way to help with energy. Another one is lion's mane. Lion's mane helps with brain fog and clarity. I actually take this when I was teaching at the studio, and I would teach about 6-7 classes in a day. I would take this before I taught, and I would notice how much more. I actually took it before this talk because I'm much more articulate when I take it, and I can think much more clearly, especially too if I need to sit down on my computer and really write out, say, like a report for a couple hours. I find this really helps me focus. Another good one is reishi mushroom. This is actually called, it just says balance on there, but it's basically just reishi mushroom in this one. Reishi mushroom is considered one of the king or the masters of the mushrooms. Mushrooms are like the adaptogens I was just speaking of. So reishi, that would be taken more at nighttime, along with, say, like the magnesium that I suggested before. It really helps with sleep, calming your mind. It's actually been shown to be given to those with things like ADHD and restlessness to help calm the body. It's really interesting too. There's a couple other adaptogens. I don't actually take them. I have to look up the names. I can actually get back to you on them, but they actually help those, like I mentioned, with ADHD, wean off prescription drugs such as Ritalin and I think it's Dexagen and a couple other things that are commonly prescribed to those with ADHD. There's so many amazing adaptogens that really help with life stress. So those are a few of my top. One more is ashwagandha. And this I probably take about 3 times a week. It does have kind of a weird flavor. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little bit more like an earthy kind of thing. So I like to mask the flavor. I like to put it in like a smoothie or like a greens juice. You don't want to ruin what you're eating with it. You only need a small amount, like a teaspoon. So it's really good for blood sugar, regulating your blood sugar levels, cortisol levels, and adrenal levels. So post-workout, this is so awesome to put into like your smoothie. Basically, when you work out, you're putting your body through stress. Your cortisol levels and your adrenal levels are really going up. You want to bring them down. Ashwagandha really helps with that. So that's a really good one, especially even if you don't work out. Our stress levels right now, a lot of people are, they're going all over the place, whether you've, your cortisol levels also correspond with how well you slept or not. So this can really help with that. I'm just going to go through, make sure I've hit all of them. I think those are all that I really wanted to touch on. One more that actually isn't really either a vitamin or supplement, I guess you call it a supplement, is digestive enzymes. I take these when I'm eating something like a meal with beans, chickpeas, what else? Something that's going to make you gassy, really. 1 to 2 before you're going to eat, they help you really digest. So think about like nuts or beans. Most people say they can't digest them. They get really bloated. They feel gassy. They feel tired. Digestive enzymes are a great natural way to help your body digest those foods. So those are some of my top things that I really wanted to talk about. So again, if you have any questions about those, I can definitely send you more information. Okay, now moving to top things that I always have on hand to make a quick meal. This kind of applies to when we I'll go back to work, or maybe you guys still are working. Are digestive enzymes okay to take? Sorry, I missed that. To take every day? Yes, totally. I mean, they're not any kind of prescribed pill. So they're basically, it's actually, sorry, it should depend on the one that you get. So I would look into what type you're getting. Most of them are just like plant source. So I'm just reading what mine comes from. One thing called the stem broma, I don't want to botch how to say this, bromelain. It's basically just comes from like a pineapple. So digestive enzymes come from things like pineapple, papaya. You'll see that a lot in digestive enzymes. They're all plant-based. Like I said, I'm not going to try to pronounce these. So just look into what you're buying. And as long as you don't take, more than, I would take one before a meal, you're fine to take, one before each meal. If you really feel like you need to take two before each meal, I would try to just take two before one meal a day and just see how you feel. You don't want to be relying on them all the time. I'll give you some more tips for digesting your food in a minute here too when we go over the food. Okay, so things that I always like to have on hand to make a
Hey, Lisa, sorry, don't mean to interrupt you, but just before we move on so we don't forget, we had one more question from Kaylee. She was asking, would you take I believe it was a cordyceps, on an empty stomach if, for example, you were working out first thing in the morning?
I do, yes. So my kind of little pre-workout recipe, it depends how well I've slept. It also depends how long ago I ate my dinner. So for me, I sometimes do a fast that also helps with digestion. I'll touch on this later. If you've heard of intermittent fasting, a lot of reasons why people do this is to help with digestion. It gives our digestive system a break. So anywhere from 12 to, some people do it for like a week, but I would do it for 12 to 16 hours, usually twice a week. So if it's been a fasting time for me, and depending on what kind of workout I'm going to be doing, so are quite a few factors. If you're going to be doing more like an intense HIIT workout and you haven't eaten, your dinner late the night before, if it's been only like 8 hours, or if it's been like up to 15 hours, if it's more like the 15 hours, I'd be a little bit more skeptical of not having something to eat. A really good thing that I like to have before a workout would be something like, if you need a little something like half a banana with a little bit of almond butter or nut butter, like a medjool date with a little bit of almond butter, nut butter. If you really need something, you can definitely have like a little scoop of oatmeal, but I would wait for at least 45 minutes to an hour before you have that workout. So it really depends on if you're doing strength training, HIIT, high intensity, if you're just going for a run. Yes. So I've had them on an empty stomach and I've been fine. Like, it hasn't given me indigestion. It hasn't made me feel sick or nauseous, but everyone is different. So I just be careful with that. So the first time you do take it, maybe have like a little bit of banana or something like that. Like, it's all natural. It's not like it's a weird caffeine boost, but just be cautious of that. Okay, so foods that I always like to have on hand. One thing I do want to stress is that buying organic is super important when you can. I know it cannot be affordable for all of us at certain times. So I'm just looking at the time here. Might have to run through this real quick. Buy organic when you can. If you can't buy it fresh organic, buy it frozen. You're still going to get a lot of nutrients from it frozen. Top things that I always buy organic. If I can't find it organic, I don't buy it, or I try to buy it frozen. Strawberries, number one. That's like the biggest one that pesticides are super high on, like over 100 different types of pesticides. Bananas, even though they have the peel, it can still get through the peel. Really important to try to buy those organic. Leafy greens, spinach, kale, any kind of lettuce. Grapes, this is a big one. Think of when you're drinking wine, a lot of us get really hungover because of the pesticides. Try to buy organic wine and organic grapes. These vitamin C, if you take one of these before you drink, they really help with hangovers. So that's another good one. Apples, another really good one to buy organic. Tomatoes, peppers, celery, corn, and coffee. So I can write down this list again for you, but those are some of my top. Avoid too much sodium when you can. I know, bananas, yeah. Avoiding sodium is really important. A big sodium one that is I don't know, I didn't really think about it for a long time, especially in this COVID. You think, okay, fill up on all like the canned stuff because you want it to have it in your pantry, right? You lose a lot of ingredients from canned foods. Plus, think about it like it's in an aluminum can. That aluminum gets into the food. You don't know how long it's been sitting in that aluminum, right? So aluminum into our body, that can create a lot of issues. So that is a really big one. So buying dried beans, A, it's way more affordable. B, you can make smaller amounts, so you're not stuck with like the leftover of a can and you don't know what to do with it, right? And you should be able to find dry beans almost everywhere. With the beans, okay, so this is the one thing I want to talk about with the digestion. With beans, a lot of us say that it's hard to digest beans without getting gassy and bloated. Soaking the beans is really awesome to help with digestion. So soaking beans, you would literally just take like your black beans, your chickpeas, whatever it is, put them in water, make sure it's pretty full because they're gonna soak up the water and get bigger. Leave them overnight on your counter, and then you're just gonna boil them on the stove. It depends on the bean of how long it's gonna take. So you can Google the exact one for whatever you're making. Anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes is what you're gonna boil the bean for. That will help your body digest that bean so much better. It's crazy. I can't eat beans now without them being soaked. I notice I am instantly bloated. So that's a really good one. And then nuts as well. Nuts, same thing. So with the cashews that I'm going to be adding to the meal today, I have soaked these cashews. Cashews are one of the highest molding nuts. I guess you'd say. It's crazy if you take cashews, you put them in water and you let them sit overnight. The water in the morning is like purpley because it's from the mold coming off. It also helps your body digest the fat that's in the nut, so it's more available for your body to digest. So you're not only getting more from the nut, but you're digesting it better so you don't feel maybe bloated or whatever you may feel from the nuts. From there, with the nuts, after you would soak them, you would drain the water, put your oven on the lowest it can go. It's probably going to be like 170, 175. Put the nuts in, no oil needed, on a baking sheet. And you're just going to bake them for anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. Again, it depends on the nut. And it's like the crunchiest, most delicious, the fragrance, the flavor. It's like a completely different thing. So that I would say is a really good option for digestion. So I'm just like, at this time, we're going to have to start cooking pretty quick. I think those are the main things that I wanted to go over. It's the one thing I just missed is things I like to have on hand for cooking really quickly. Grains, some kind of grains. I do one day a week where I do, like I pick a grain. I'll say, okay, I'm going to make quinoa for this week. I'll make a big thing and I'll take containers and I'll make about 3 different portions just so I can take them out and, defrost them and have them for a quick meal. Veggies, best way to store them. For instance, I'll take celery. I'll just kind of chop it up into stalks, put it in a bowl, like a big container of water, throw in your broccolis, throw in your carrots. They'll last for so long. And then they're semi ready to go that you literally just have to do a quick chop and throw it in with the quinoa. I like to have tofu on hand. It's so easy to just chop up, throw in the pan. Beans, same thing. I usually go through the week and soak some and have them ready on hand. They last for about 4 or 5 days in the fridge. You can also freeze so much of this stuff. That's the thing, is sauces, salad dressings, all of this stuff, steamed vegetables, freeze it. All of it lasts for so long. Energy balls, you can freeze those. Herbs, that's a really big one I like to have on hand. They're so underutilized. They're so easy to just throw in things. One of my favorite healthy salad dressings is literally, I'll just put a bunch of greens on a plate. I'll put some fresh lemon on it. Fresh lemon is a form of vitamin C, so it'll help with the absorption of the iron that you're getting from these leafy greens. So a little bit of lemon, little bit of like avocado oil or a good olive oil, little bit of say apple cider vinegar, maybe balsamic vinegar, and then just some herbs. It's so easy. I literally don't even mix it up. I just throw it on the greens and then chop up like parsley, or it's so good and it's so easy. Throw in some pepper and it's like, you're good to go. And then nuts and seeds, that's another one. Same thing, they add such good crunch to stuff. They're just so easy to throw in. And then you're getting your proteins, your healthy fats, so you fill yourself up. Avocado, same thing, so easy to just slice and throw on stuff. Sorry, I'm kind of rushing through this just because I don't want to miss out time with the cooking. Okay, so those are like the main things that I wanted to talk about. I can touch on some things too if anyone has questions as we cook. So I'm gonna start with the cooking real quick, getting into it, and then I'll answer questions too if you guys want as we're cooking. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the chop suey. This is such a great, easy recipe to make. So I am going to, with my rice, I've already put my rice, so I'm gonna actually put this down so you guys can see what I'm doing. So with the rice, I put 1 cup of rice into this pot. I'm gonna put some water in here real quick. So washing the rice is super important. Washing your rice avoids it from getting clumpy. So notice how I put the water in here. You can't really see that, it's quite murky. I'm gonna wash the rice so that it comes clean. So basically I just kind of keep a little space there. I'm gonna dump the water out. It's a really quick, easy step that you can take to avoid clumping the rice and just make sure it cooks really evenly. So I'm just gonna fill that up again. I'm gonna do 1.5 cups of water. So I'll put this up a little bit so you guys can see me. All right, so 1 cup of rice. I'm adding, most of us always think it's 2 to 1. Once you wash the rice, all you need to do is 1.5. That'll ensure you are getting really nice, kind of al dente rice. I'm gonna put that on. So basically you just wanna cover with a lid. And rinse so good, cover with the lid. It's gonna come to a boil. I'm gonna turn it down to low. I'm gonna let it cook for 5 minutes and then place it aside. So as that's cooking, I'm just gonna chop up, I'll turn this down again so you guys can see me. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna chop up my garlic. So garlic and ginger, these are 2 things that I always have on hand. A, because they last for so long, as long as they're in maybe like an airtight container. They are so good for their natural immunity boosters. Garlic and ginger are really great. Recipe that I like to use for ginger is I literally just slice. So say I take like a slice of ginger like this. I pop this in hot water and I make my own ginger tea. You can throw in some like jalapeno too if you're feeling like you're coming down with a little bit of a cold. I love to throw in jalapeno, fresh jalapeno. It really helps your body fight off any common cold. So I'm just gonna roughly chop these small. And it just depends. Honestly, this recipe is so versatile that if you really love ginger, add a little bit more ginger, but roughly it's about 1 inch piece of ginger. I'm just roughly peeling it. I like to peel it because I just find it's an extra step, especially right now, to make sure that if anyone's touched this ginger, you're not getting anything on the outside of the ginger. So I wash it gently, kind of take the skins off. From there, I'm gonna put that to the side. So now I'm gonna chop the things that are gonna take the longest to cook. So I'm gonna cut the ends off of my carrots. Carrots, I always buy organic. That's just one thing. I just love the taste of organic carrots. I think it's incredible. So I'm gonna cut them in half and then kind of cut it on an angle. I like the kind of longer, thin pieces of a carrot, pieces in this recipe. Kind of like that, like a large coin style. So just a rough chop. Yeah, perfect. Sorry, the chop suey recipe is in the chat box as well if you actually want to see exactly what I'm putting in here. I have a PDF too that we'll send if you can't see the recipe right now. So basically I'm just chopping carrots, gonna take the longest. My onion, I'm doing half an onion. You can do really any type of onion. I would say even red would work in this one. A really good tip for cutting onions so you don't cry, put them in your fridge. Once they're cold, you won't cry. So that is a huge step right there. So I'm just gonna kind of roughly chop that through. So this is what we're gonna be starting off with. I'm gonna actually start this on my stove so we can get things going a little bit quicker. All right, so into my pan, I'm popping 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. So I'm gonna pop that in. I'm gonna put this on medium heat to get going, and I'm gonna add this in just a second as that heats up. I know. Okay, so that is chopping, and my rice. Okay, so my rice is coming to a boil. I'm gonna turn this down to, mine says numbers, so I'm gonna turn it down to 3. So that's gonna be like a quite low, like medium to low. I'm gonna let it steam for about 5 minutes and then I'm gonna take it off. So I'm just gonna let that continue cooking. I'm gonna chop up my mushrooms. I'm usually using shiitake mushrooms. This is actually another superfood. So shiitake mushrooms, you can actually buy like pill form, you'll see everywhere. It's actually considered an adaptogen. It's a part of the medicinal mushrooms that I was talking about before. Cordyceps, lion's mane, those are all medicinal mushrooms. Shiitake is considered one. So if you are able to find shiitake, they're a little bit more expensive, but you just need a small amount. You can usually find them at most grocery stores if you look. Make sure you wash them really well. They are huge for antioxidant properties, anti-cancer fighting, and they're really delicious. So chopping these up. All right, so I'm gonna add in, once those are roughly chopped, I'm gonna add my my carrots, my onions, and my ginger and garlic into the pan. All right, so that's going with the coconut oil. That's gonna go for about a minute just to soften. Again, the carrot is pretty much the hardest thing that I have here that's gonna take the longest. Next, I'm gonna go celery and broccoli. So I'm just gonna give it a rough chop. Again, I kind of like to do it on like an angle, like more of the longer pieces. So I'm chopping that along with the broccoli. Celery is another thing I like to get organic. It's just more of a personal thing for me. Actually, no, it was on my list, wasn't it? Yeah, it was my list. This is actually one thing that celery is on my list that I mentioned to you before, but a lot of people have gotten back and forth about putting it on the top 10 kind of list of what you should and shouldn't eat organic. If you actually really look into it, it's almost as bad as strawberries of the amount of pesticides that has been found on celery. So that's why I consider it in one of my top lists. Okay, so this rice, it's almost about to be turned off. I'm just gonna give it a little stir. So again, I want it to be like al dente. We don't want to overcook rice. The worst thing is getting like a gummy, gross rice. So I'm just gonna let that cook for another about minute. Again, it's about 5-ish minutes. From here, my carrots, everything is cooking here. Let that go for about a minute. So again, it's about 2-3 minutes just to soften. I'll add this in a second. As I do, I'm going to chop up my pepper. Using green pepper, I just like the flavor of the green pepper. Again, it's just a rough chop. It's the beauty about the recipe. Super rough. I'll be adding all of these in together. Perfect. So I'm just gonna let that cook through. This I'm gonna turn off. My rice is done. So I'm literally just turning this off. I'm gonna put it to the side, let that steam. From there, I'm gonna add in my veggies. So the rest of them are gonna go in. Spilled quite a few there. All right, so as that's cooking, I'm gonna be adding in a 1/4 cup of water. Good, the water helps it steam, and I'm gonna put a lid over it. All right, so now I'm just gonna let that steam. I'll pop it over here just so it keeps a little faster. Good, and then from there, we are just waiting for that to kind of cook down. Because we're coming towards the end, I'm just gonna go over the protein ball recipe. I want to get this one in for you guys since it's a really good one. Put this up a little bit. Okay, so as that's cooking, if you guys want to follow along with me, that's great if you have the ingredients. This is, again, a super versatile recipe. Oats, I'm going to take 3/4 cup of oats and I'm going to pop it in a blender. You can, if you don't have a blender, that's totally fine. It's just going to be slightly different texture. So I'm going to pop in 3/4 cup. This is 1/2 cup. So I'll pop in here. Oats, yeah, cookie dough protein balls, yeah, exactly. All right, so oats, another one, really highly sprayed. It's great if you can get organic oats. Choices has a really good deal on a big organic bag of oats right now. Okay, so I'm gonna roughly blend that up. Just nice and rough. pop it in a bowl. Okay, so blending that, I'm going to quickly melt some 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. I'm gonna pop that in the microwave. 15 seconds. Perfect. From there, I'm gonna add in my nut butter. So you can use literally whatever nut butter you want. Today, I'm doing tahini. I didn't get a chance to go to the store. It's not my weekly run yet, so I didn't have the almond butter that I wanted. I'm using tahini. It's a great option as well. Okay, so with this, we're doing half a cup. Let me use this one here. So half a cup of the nut butter, peanut butter, tahini, almond butter. Okay, I'm gonna grab that coconut oil. Add in the coconut oil. A third of a cup of almond flour. This one you can literally use so many different kinds of flours. You could use coconut flour. You could use, if you're not gluten-free, you could use, you probably actually wouldn't want to just eat like a regular flour unless it's cooked. But there's a lot of different, like a spelt flour, that's another good one. There's so many different kind of flours that you can really sub in for this. I'm gonna give that a little bit of mix. It just starts to come together. And it also depends on how like drippy that your almond butter is or whatever butter that you're using. Mine is actually not drippy at all, so I'm gonna have to add a little bit more in. You know, when you open up a fresh container and it's quite drippy at the top. So if it's not, just add a little bit more. I'm gonna add in my chocolate chips. So about a third to a quarter of a cup. I'm gonna add all those in. A little bit of vanilla. I'm gonna do a teaspoon. This one, I always just add a little extra because I love vanilla. And then for sweetener. So my sweetener alternatives, coconut sugar. Can you guys see that there? Coconut nectar. So this is a great alternative. It's lower on the glycemic index, which means it affects your body differently than normal sugar would. It doesn't raise your insulin levels as much. Another really good one is, I mean, maple syrup is great as long as you get a good grade. Grade B is a really good one. And then another good one is monk fruit. I use this all the time. Monk fruit is actually almost 0 on the glycemic index. I'm gonna show you right here. It literally just looks like sugar. Those who have actually diabetes have been shown to be able to digest this fine and it not affect their insulin levels, which is unreal. So I'm gonna give this a mix up, and it depends on how sweet you like it. So if you feel like you wanna add a little bit extra sweetener, like I said, it's super easy. Another good option is to add in protein powder. So if you want a little bit of protein, add in about 3 tablespoons, but I would just be careful. You might have to add like a little dash of, say, like non-dairy milk. I'm just gonna check my veggies. All right, so from there, that's basically done. Literally all I'm gonna do is just roll them. You could roll them in hemp hearts. You could add in walnuts, and they store in the fridge for up to about a week, 10 days. You can pop in the freezer. They're so great for like a pick-me-up in the afternoon. You know, you just need something. We often go to like a prepackaged food or coffee. So these are really great to have. Okay, so back to the chop suey. We're almost to 1 o'clock. I'm just gonna run through this real quick. We have about 2 minutes to go. So cabbages take no time. Cabbages are considered a cruciferous vegetable. So they're great for anti-cancer properties, tons of minerals and vitamins, and they last forever. Like, these are awesome. So I'm just gonna throw this on top. Pop my lid on again, and then just let it steam. They don't need long. My rice should be almost done. Perfect. I want to show you guys this rice. This is because soaked it, and I barely, like, I steamed it. I did 1.5 cups. It's hard to see. It's not gummy. It's like nice and fluffy. That's what you want in a rice, and it has a little crunch to it. So from there, that's finishing off, basically just steaming. It's gonna need a couple more minutes, and that's pretty much done. I'm gonna add a little bit of the sauce to it too. I'll go through that with you guys in just 1 second. The toppers I'm gonna be using, that I'm gonna chop up, is water chestnuts, great for a crunch. These things, same thing, you can actually only buy them canned. They last actually a decent amount of time in the fridge, and my cashews to pop on top. So as that is steaming, again, the cabbage takes like a minute or two, super easy to cook. I'm gonna bring this over and add in the sauce, and then we're done. Okay, so with that sweetener, you're gonna add in, you don't want a ton of it, so I'm just gonna throw like a clean, I would say about 2 teaspoons. Just taste it. It just depends on how much veggie you're using, really. For the amount that's in the recipe, I usually do about a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon and a half. Same thing, you just kind of play around with it. I start with a teaspoon, and then I add in my tamari. Tamari is a great option as a gluten-free soy sauce. So I'm gonna add in 4 tablespoons. And then I'm gonna add in sesame oil. This is 1 tablespoon. Gives it a really nice flavor. And rice vinegar. My rice vinegar I'm adding on, gives it kind of that nice pungent kick. I'm adding in 1 tablespoon. Perfect. From there, I'm just gonna be mixing that around, having with my rice, and topping with the cashews and the water chestnuts. So you don't want to cook the veggies too much that they go limp. You do want like a nice crunch to them. So this recipe really only takes, you guys can see it kind of there. They're still nice and crispy. This needs like a minute more. And that's it. You can swap in bok choy. You can add in so many different kinds of vegetables. You could do zucchini. You could do any kind of pepper. Tons of options. You could even throw in red cabbage. I'm sure that would be great. Any kind of mushroom. I know it's about 1 o'clock. I'm sure you guys probably have to go back to work. Does anyone have any last minute questions? Sorry, I had to run through that. There was so much more I wanted to talk about. Anyone have any last minute questions that they want to ask real quick? Otherwise, you can feel free to email me or anything about it, what I've talked about.
So there were 3 questions on the side while you were going through. So there was first one, do you recommend raw nuts?
Raw nuts, they do. I mean, technically raw nuts have the highest nutrients in them. However, it depends the way that your body absorbs them. So everyone is different, to be honest. That's the trickiest part. So raw nuts, you're gonna get more nutrients than roasted nuts that you're buying. So that's a really big one. So I never try to buy roasted nuts because also you don't know how long ago they were roasted. They lose their nutrients over time. So that's a really big one. I try to buy raw, and then I soak them, and then I toast them. So that's usually the best way, just because I know they already started with the most nutrients. I actually buy, just because nuts can be more expensive too, cashews I use often, especially for sauces. It's a great way to get the creaminess. I buy like a big bag online. I can actually show you. It was like $60, but I got, it's lasted me forever. So this is like an organic big bag of cashews. I keep it in the freezer. The freezer is going to allow it to stay really good for a long time. It's called Food to Live. You can just get it on Amazon. You can go to their website. And then that's kind of just how I have my nuts. Or else it's really expensive if you buy them out, just in bulk and stuff. What was the other question?
The second one was, is the coconut oil used for a special purpose?
No, sorry. I meant to actually say that you can use, say, like a vegetable oil, canola oil. Try not to get something that's like obviously GMO or processed. It'll say on it. You want like a lighter oil, especially in this one. I wouldn't suggest olive oil. Olive oil is meant to be more of like a finishing oil. Most people think that like they're gonna throw it on some veggies and roast it at a high heat, then you're losing all the properties of it. So olive oil, I try to leave to like, yeah, if I'm going to top my salad off with it. Canola oil can be heavily processed too. So I never used canola oil, to be honest. If anything, I would do avocado and coconut oil. Those are my main go-tos because they're both high heat. So they can handle up to, I think it's 450 Fahrenheit with maintaining their properties and their nutrients. Other than that, I would go down to like vegetable oil, but just make sure it's not processed. Canola oil can be fine. It's just where your source. Like a lot of restaurants use canola oil because it's cheapest, but some of them are not the worst. So it just depends on really like how much money you want to spend on it.
There were some additional comments about is canola oil heavily processed, and what about grapeseed oil?
Actually, I have grapeseed oil. No, that one's a good one, but make sure you get it organic. This is the kind that I have, and it is, yeah, so it says non-GMO verified. And I think that's all you actually have to look for in this one. This one is a really good brand, Mason Orphy. Grapeseed oil just in general has tons of nutrients. Same thing, it can handle a little bit higher of a heat. I wouldn't put it in like baking on like 450, but I would use it in like a pan because you're not gonna, you know what I mean? On like medium high heat, that's fine. And the cornstarch, yes, sorry, I totally forgot to add that in. Cornstarch is gonna be going into the sauce because that is gonna kind of thick it up a little bit. If you don't have it, it's still gonna be great. The rice could soak it up, but it is gonna, I've made it with and without. It does make a bit of a difference if you have it. It makes a nice texture to the sauce. So you can use cornstarch, arrowroot starch, and tapioca starch. They're all the exact same thing, and they're all gluten-free. So whatever you can find, most stores will have one or the other.
Lisa, do you not mix the ingredients together before you throw it in? Like you were just throwing it straight in the stir fry, like that's fine? Because like with the cornstarch, it kind of like powders everywhere. Like do you just throw it in there?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, I wish this pan was still on, but I literally would just throw it in at the end and just mix it up, and it'll mix in with the sauce. As long as your pan is on low heat, it'll just nicely. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I actually, I recently made a video on this on my YouTube channel. So you can actually fully just watch me remake it. Sorry, because I had to go through that really fast. So you can watch like my step-by-step too of how I made it.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah. And one more thing, so I just wanted to add about the white rice. A lot of people think that white rice is bad for you. And I actually used to think that up for a long, long time. And first of all, I just think that you look at Asian culture and they eat white rice and they live forever. So I started looking into it, and basically the difference between white rice and brown rice is that brown rice has like a coating on it. It's I can't think of the name right now. It's just the fiber. So basically that fiber is removed to make it white, the bran or the brust or something. So that bran is what gives us a little bit more nutrients. So technically brown rice does have a little bit more nutrients. It's not a huge amount in the end. But some people can have a hard time digesting the bran, and they may feel bloated and lethargic. So that could be something that you might not even be noticing, thinking that you're eating healthier with the brown rice. So white rice, it still has a decent amount of nutrients in it. It fills you up. I like the texture better with this dish, to be honest. So.
And one more question was, what are your thoughts about xylitol as a sweetener?
That's actually part of this. So this monk fruit sweetener, it's xylitol mixed with, it's erythritol mixed with it. Xylitol is similar to that erythritol. Mixed thoughts, totally, because it is technically, it's natural, but it's processed. So I try to have the least amount of processed stuff that I can. It's all in balance in the end. I think that, I use that here and there. I prefer using that than just straight sugar because of what sugar can do to your body. And I just find it's more addicting to the sugar, whereas like these kind of things don't have that what am I kind of looking for? That reputation, I guess you would say. It's a healthier substitution, as studies have shown. So there's nothing that I've seen that's that bad on it. But like I said, I wouldn't have that every single day, all the time.
Any last few questions? I know we're about 8 minutes over time right now.
I'm so sorry, you guys. I could talk for hours on this.
Okay, this is super informative. I've sure enjoyed it. I'm glad I didn't have another call afterwards.
I know. Thank you so much for joining me today, you guys. And feel free, like, I just actually launched my website too. I have a lot of information there. Feel free to email me, message me. I'm happy to talk more about what we went through today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. This was super informative, and I can't wait to try out these recipes. You made it look really easy. So, on behalf of everyone at CREW, we just wanted to thank you for sharing your expertise with us today, and for all of our guests who joined, and thank you for all of those who are able to stay the extra time. We do have additional series coming up. We have next week. Oxygen Yoga and Fitness will be doing a yoga class, so same time Thursday at noon, and registration for that will open on Monday, and you can find more information on our website. But otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we've shared Lisa's website as well, so you can check out some more information there, and we will post this on our CREW Vancouver YouTube. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining.
Bye. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 Thank you.